First of all, Taoiseach, I'm going to appeal to you to just stop. Stop from that side of the House trying to make us look like we don't give a damn about the maternity and reproductive care of women, that somehow we're delaying it through misinformation and we're opposition for the sake of opposition, that we are playing politics with this. Please stop, because this isn't helping the debate for the ordinary people out there who are interested in it and who want to know what the hell is going on. Poll after poll has shown that the vast majority of ordinary people do not trust this arrangement. Many are still undecided about whether they trust you or not, but the majority don't trust you on this. And the women of Ireland don't trust you. And on Saturday, outside this House, there will be a major protest about this deal, with the call that you, the Cabinet, the entire government and the whole of the Oireachtas should be screaming at St Vincent's Holdings and St Vincent's Healthcare Group to give us the land. They are, after all, a body that were involved in redress for what happened to the women in this country. There's a legacy and there's a history and there's a bad taste in our mouths. And don't tell us that we're playing politics with 100 years of attacks against women and their health. And if you think there's no reason why we shouldn't trust you, look around you. Look at your cabinet and members of your ministers who voted and campaigned against the repeal referendum, who tried to hold back progress for women in this country. And I will remind everybody that the new National Maternity Hospital isn't just about delivering babies and good maternity care. It's all about that, but it's all about the entire gambit of reproductive rights, including abortion, sterilisation, and we've been constantly given guarantees that that is written into the arrangements of 3 different boards with 3 different constitutions with a plethora of complex intricacies to create a board of management that you're telling us will be guaranteed that it'll deliver and we don't need to own the land. But then you say, well, we practically do own the land. If we practically own it, then I think the best thing for you to do and for the entire cabinet to do is to make that call on St Vincent's Holdings, gift the land to the people of Ireland and remove this complex labyrinthine arrangements around the future of maternity and reproductive care for women and girls in this country. We're owed at least that after 100 years of absolute outrageous persecution of the female sex in this country. We're owed at least that the future can be guaranteed, and it won't be guaranteed under these documents. And I'll go into it in my retort to you why, but I'm asking you to please stop it. Stop accusing us of playing politics and take this debate seriously.
Deputy Taoiseach.
As a government who are entitled in a democracy to their points of view. On other issues, they're entitled to their views. But you seek to blacken people already. You just did in your contribution. So you can't have it both ways, Deputy. You cannot have it both ways. I respect people's views. Irrespective of what views we're in a democracy. I always respect people's views, and particularly in the Parliament. But I want to make this point. If you don't trust me, and that's fine. Maybe you might trust the clinicians at the hospital. You might trust the senior midwives at the hospital. The directors. Mary Brosnan, Martina Carden, Anne Callan, Geraldine Duffy, Emer Guinan, Rachel Irwin, Shida Kiafir. What are they saying? They say they do respect and understand the very genuine fears expressed by many members of the public that are public representatives. We know from experience, they say, that the full range of maternity and women's health services are all available to women at the National Maternity Hospital. They are not limited by any religious ethos and will not be in the future. Future service users require and deserve state-of-the-art infrastructure and facilities, and we urge all political parties in government and opposition to listen to the clinical staff delivering the service and to approve this project without further delay. And we know from earlier correspondence from about 52 clinicians in Holles Street about their desire to get this hospital built and their absolute certainty that all services in relation to reproductive health, termination of pregnancy, all of those will be provided in the hospitals into the future. Now, not only will be, they're saying will be, but the legal documents that have been published, and which is why I think people should read those documents, namely the constitution of the hospital, namely the operational license that will be granted by the HSE to the new hospital, insist that they must be done. There has to be legally, and there is legally enforceable compliance with the law of the land in terms of the services that women are entitled to under the legislation and under the constitution of the state. That's what all of the negotiations to date has provided for. And all of the issues have been negotiated for the last 7 years about the whole leasehold and so forth. They're not prepared to give the full land in terms of a freehold title. And remember, this is co-location. This is a site within a much larger healthcare site. And the optimal value from co-location is that there's very easy access from the delivery rooms in the maternity to the theatres in Vincent's, so that women who develop complications, and they're rare, thanks be to God, in modern maternal health, but they happen. They happen. And medical expertise is that we should co-locate alongside tertiary hospitals. And I would also say the vast majority of what happens within a maternity hospital is the delivery of babies and so forth. And we want that to be as healthy and as decent an experience as possible in the 21st century. That's all. That is the only agenda that government is advancing.
Deputy Brid Smith.
Okay, so let's move away from the historical legacy of the religious orders' involvement. Let's move away from mistrust, and let's take at face value what you're saying, that we will effectively own the hospital. I'm reading from the St. Vincent's Healthcare Group fact sheet, and they did a very useful fact sheet here. And on page 2, they asked the question, who owns the new maternity hospital? The new maternity hospital, DAC, will be part of St. Vincent's Healthcare Group. Who owns the land where the new maternity hospital will be facilitated and built? The land is owned by St. Vincent's Healthcare Group. Sorry, I have a couple of pages to turn. Why is the National Maternity Hospital owned and run by St. Vincent's? Well, one of the reasons they give is that the floors in the new building, apart from being physically integrated, will have both the National Maternity Hospital and St. Vincent's universal clinical and non-clinical facilities, and that somehow it be really difficult to integrate the care of women on these floors between one set of clinicians and the other unless St. Vincent's Healthcare Group maintain a serious interest in the new National Maternity Hospital. And do they maintain it? Yes, they do. Because one of the 6 stipulations for the rent on the land remaining at a tenner a year, otherwise it goes up to nearly $1 million a year, is that the HSE will never attempt to acquire St. Vincent's interest. What happened to Sláinte Care? What happened to the aspiration of this state to move away from private, from voluntary, from two-tier medicine to a fully state-owned, publicly run, controlled healthcare service?
Time is up,
That's
Deputy,
gone out the window, because one of those stipulations will not allow us to do it unless we're prepared to say to St. Vincent's, okay, we'll give you $1 million a year for land on which we publicly built a hospital. This does not stack up, and it needs to be answered.
No, the purpose here is to build a maternity hospital, not any other hospital. The purpose of this exercise was never to buy out St. Vincent's. That was not the objective when Holles Street and Vincent's originally decided to co-locate. So let's not mix up the agendas here. The agenda here was to build a modern national maternity hospital where you had co-location of expertise, both in terms of maternal and neonatal
Deputy,
care,
will you let the Taoiseach
and
respond?
in respect of tertiary hospital, and in respect of the ownership. The protections in the constitution of the new hospital and other documents are designed precisely to deal with the issue that you've just referenced and prevent SVHD exercising the control which a parent could normally exercise over a subsidiary. St. Vincent's Hospital Group is specifically obliged to promote the principal objective, the provision of clinically appropriate, legally permissible services, and the interests of the National Maternity Hospital, including the independent exercise by the National Maternity Hospital and the board of the reserved powers. And the reserved powers are in the constitution of the new hospital. And the minister can direct the directors to make sure that the reserved powers are implemented, namely all legal services being made available. And there's been a whole range of people who've been involved in this for quite a number of years now and getting to this point, beyond the Mulvey agreement and so forth. And I think, to be fair to all concerned, The agenda has been stated by many involved to provide the best of modern care to women in maternal care and to newborn babies, particularly premature born babies, well into the future.
Thank
That is
you
the
very
only
much.
agenda.
The time is up.